when the article came out in the newspaper, Spokesman Review, about the concerns at World Relief, the associate of Brett Hendricks, who is with us today, contacted me and said, if you're interested in knowing about nonprofit organizations that work with refugees, we're one of those, and we would love to partner with you, which I thought was a wonderful contact for her to make. And then she and Brett fought over who gets to come and present to us at the forum. But it's helpful for us to know not only who's there as first response in situations of need, in this case, refugee resettlement, but also what the continuum of care is that's available to people, because as you know, if you've read anything about the foster care system or other nonprofit organizations that work with people who are dealing with relocation or being dislocated, that that having resources that back up that first response are essential. And so I introduced you Brett Hendricks and welcome him from Global Neighborhood.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm gonna make sure we can see everybody here. I think the easiest way to introduce me, we're the people that own the big orange bin out in your parking lot. That's the first point of contact. I think we put that there. I remember coming out and delivering that about, I don't know, a year or two ago. So thank you, and I'll get more into that later. But that's where the bin came from. I think the start of my story, I think the best place for me to connect is, I have this picture in my house. It's a black and white picture of my mom, who is about 2 years old, in the arms of my grandma and grandpa, along with her 7 siblings on the gangplank up to a cruise line leaving the port of Rotterdam in the mid-1950s. And my mom, they immigrated to the United States when my mom was about 2 years old. And they left, not technically as refugees, but pretty close. Their home in the Netherlands, their farm had been destroyed during the war, and it was just, they were impoverished after World War II and just couldn't make ends meet anymore. And my grandparents said, we see no future for our kids here, even though this is our country, we love this place. And they had a cousin that they had loose contact with that had immigrated to California, and they said, we're going to do it. And they packed up all of their 8 kids and moved with nothing. They left their farm, they left their land, everything, and moved to California. The interesting part about that story for me is that at this point in my life, it's an interesting story, and it's a piece of my heritage. Like, I've had the chance to travel back to the Netherlands and visit the house that my mom was born in. But for me, it's an interesting part of my story rather than the defining part of my story, because when my grandparents came, they were welcomed into the community. There was a church that they got involved in. They had people that surrounded them, befriended them. My grandfather was able to start a new farm, a dairy farm, and be successful and send his kids, including my mom, to college here. So that by the time it reaches me, the next generation, I'm like, oh yeah, I have Dutch heritage, and that's an interesting part of my story. But what we see for so many people is when they don't have that initial community and opportunity to work and to find support, that the story through the generations can look very differently from what my story has. So I grew up in Northwest Washington. I came to Spokane, almost 20 years ago now. It just seems crazy. I went to Whitworth. I came here to go to Whitworth. I studied theology and philosophy there. And after graduating, I was living in town just with a couple of roommates, and we got through just a series of connections involved with volunteering and supporting refugees who were newly arrived here. And that was an eye-opening experience for me, because I knew nothing about refugees. I didn't know what a refugee was. I didn't know where they were coming from. I certainly didn't know they were in Spokane. And the first people we got into contact with were these two guys who came from Eritrea, and they were my age, these two single guys, and they had been prisoners of war. They had come over here as refugees, and I remember very distinctly the experience, because I remember sitting and playing checkers with these guys and drinking tea and thinking, this could be me. If I was born, like, they were born in Eritrea, I was born here, but their situation, like, it's one of those experiences where you think, wow, there's really not that much difference between the two of us here, and yet our experiences are so vastly different. And it was through that I got really motivated and passionate about, like, wow, how can I learn more about all these people coming here? How can we support them? And I ended up, through that, getting a job at World Relief. I worked there for 9 months, I think, and that really threw me into the deep end as far as, wow, there's people from all over the world coming here. There's actually a lot of people coming here. It gave me a lot of good experience, and I got experience and a healthy amount of frustration, I think, because it was, I started seeing the limitations of the resettlement system in the United States, where usually resettlement, the official resettlement period at that time is either 90 days, or I think they've extended up to 180 days in some cases now. But in hindsight, I'd say, like, resettlement should really be measured in years or decades rather than days or months. Because when the people were timing out of the support that I was able to give them there, I was saying, like, they're barely over their jet lag at this point. We can't, what's next for people? And at that point, there wasn't much. And so, being young and entrepreneurial and naive, I said, well, I'll just start my own thing. Why not? How hard can it be? And so I started Global Neighborhood, and this was in 2007. And I started it with not as much a specific plan, but more a set of ideals. And it sounds definitely like a kid just out of college, right? But my goal was to say, how can we create an organization that is built around the express needs of the people we're trying to help, rather than a checklist from the Department of State, essentially, that, okay, these people need these things, as long as we can check this off the list, they're good. But I said, well, how can we get to know them and listen to them and see what they need? So that's what we did, and we spent really three to 4 years drinking a lot of tea in a lot of people's living rooms from all over the world. And we did a lot of, like, volunteer work, matching volunteers with refugee families, a lot of educational, helping people with ESL classes, and things like that. And it was really good, and what we saw was every time we did anything, people would come and say, hey, thank you so much for doing this. Before we get started, help me fill out this job application. Before we work on my homework for the ESL school, like, help me, like, what's a resume? Help me figure this out. Help me apply for this job. And it just kept happening over and over again until finally we realized, what people really need is a job. Like, there's a lot of needs that people have when they come, but it's pretty foundational. We were working on, like, say, English classes, and people would say, I understand I need to learn English. That's important. But my rent is due in 4 days, and I don't have any money. And I need to buy diapers for my kids. Like, yes, I will learn English, but first, like, help me get a job. Now, this was in, kind of the lowest point of the economic recession at that point. And so, it was hard for anybody to get a job at that point. And somebody who didn't really speak much English and had a name that someone couldn't pronounce on a resume they didn't have a lot of chances. But we started understanding, I don't know if you're familiar with, it's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or like the pyramid, right, of like what people need. And what we had been doing is focusing a lot on the top of that, like self-actualization, like, oh, we want people to be able to express their culture and to have like safe places to celebrate their holidays. And that's all really important and really good. But what we learned is people are down, like, we need to focus kind of on the bottom of that pyramid. And in America, we do a really good job at the very bottom level, which is like physical survival, right? Where people need food, water, shelter. But what I've seen is in America, if we can provide those things, we're like, great, you're on your own now. As long as you like are not starving and are not on the street, then people are like, well, now it's time to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And that's obviously really hard, and I have a lot of issues with that mentality, but the second level on that hierarchy is safety and stability. And that's where we've seen a job come in, because safety and stability includes things like income stability, and also a community where people feel welcome and safe. And what we realized is that a job can provide both of those things. So in 2010, after thinking through all this, we decided to pivot the whole organization to focus on employment for refugees. Because we said, this is what people are asking us for. That's what we set out to do, is what are people asking us for? We're gonna do that. We didn't really know how we were gonna do it. We started for the first year saying, we're just gonna help people fill out applications, we're gonna help people do job search, we're gonna do interview practice and resume building. And out of the whole year, we got one guy a job, and that was through, because one of our friends was a manager at Starbucks at the time and decided to like take a risk and hire this guy after a whole year. And we said, okay, we're missing something here. And if businesses aren't able or willing to hire refugees and give them the training, then we just need to do it ourselves. Again, there's being ambitious and naive at the same time, but we just said, well, let's start our own business. How hard can it be, right? It was really hard, but we ended up starting, and again, there wasn't even much of a plan at that time, but as a nonprofit, we had all of this stuff being donated to us. We weren't even asking for it at that point. We had to rent out storage units just to stack all this stuff in. We said, well, let's start a thrift store. Why not? And so we did. In 2011, we opened Global Neighborhood Thrift, and we started with just two guys, Imad and Hari. Imad was from Iraq, and Hari was from Nepal. Hari had his own little farm in Nepal, and he was 62 when we started, and it was his first. We gave him his first paycheck ever. That was fun. But yeah, we started with just two guys in this small store, and we said, this might last 6 months, and we might go up in flames, but we're gonna die trying, right? We're gonna see what we can do to give at least these two guys full-time jobs and see what we can do. And we've kept at it since then. It's been over almost 11 years now that we've been in business as what we call social enterprise business. So we are a nonprofit, but we operate a business with a mission focus to provide employment and job training for former refugees. And since then,
Would it be fair to say that you are the goodwill for the refugee community? I mean, that's basically Goodwill's business model, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, essentially. The job training and the employment. And our focus is really trying to give those opportunities and training to people who are not able to find work anywhere else, mostly because of language and cultural barriers. So from the beginning, our setup, we just said, how can we make it work to give employment and job training to people who not only face all of the normal barriers of poverty, such as housing, childcare, transportation, healthcare, but then on top of that, there's the compounding factors of, you probably don't speak English yet, and then the cultural barriers. And it's tricky to train someone how to do a job with all of that, but we've managed to figure it out. So yeah, now in the last 10 years, we've had 55 different people on our payroll, former refugees, and then we have what we call our job readiness program, which gives paid job training to people and then helps them find work, like transition them out into other jobs once they're trained. And we've had another 152 people go through that program now. It was really, I mean, it's still hard. It was really hard for about the first 9 years. It was very, very difficult. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears going into trying to figure out how to run a business that employs people that aren't able to find work, essentially. But we've picked up steam in the last couple years for sure, to the point now that we have 36 or 30, starting tomorrow, 37 people on our payroll. And then also, along with that job readiness program, where we have the capacity now for another 20 people at a time to receive job training. So we have our thrift store, which is now moved to down by Gonzaga. It's on the corner of Trent and Hamilton. And out of that thrift store, we've also expanded into recycling. So we do primarily textile recycling, so textiles and shoes, anything that we aren't able to sell in our store. We also get it from other sources, and then we sort through it and we bundle it up. We bale it, and you see like the big bales of cardboard outside of grocery stores. We do that except with clothes, like these 900-pound bales of clothes. And we ship those out, so that's able to create 4 or 5 more jobs. And because that has expanded, we recently started a small trucking company because we're shipping so much of this stuff, so instead of paying someone else to drive a semi-truck around, one of our employees, he moved up. He started in our job readiness program when he was here for only like 4 weeks when he started, Farah from Sudan, and he didn't speak any English. This was 6 years ago, and he was just cleaning dishes in our thrift store. And then he moved up to be able to drive our box trucks around and pick up donations. And over the years, he recently got his commercial driver's license. He got his citizenship. He's buying a house, and now he's our trucking manager. So he drives a semi-truck all over the place, picking up stuff from other cities, delivering this recycling. We started last year also like selling books online. So we have an online book selling operation that they're shipping out, 40 books a day now, probably. And they're scanning thousands of pounds of books a day. One thing I've learned in all of this is that in America we have a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff. It's crazy. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, so at this point we're trying to find whatever means we can, essentially to take stuff that people are throwing out and turn those into jobs for refugees. And that really aligns well with, we have an organizational value of just commitment to our planet and to sustainability. And so it's actually really fun and exciting in that we can do all these things that are actually reducing, significantly the amount of stuff that's going into the landfill or the incinerator. We can give them new life, and out of that, create some jobs for people. So now we're we're paying out now over $30,000 a month in wages to refugees, which I was telling my wife this morning, I never, like, 10 years ago, I never would have imagined that we would have been at this. We had 2 guys at, I think the minimum wage was like $9 an hour then, and we said, there's no way we can do this. we can't make this work. But now we're in a place where, yeah, even our starting employees, we're able to pay them $15 an hour starting wage for someone who, like, tomorrow, Kushal is starting. He is one of the people who came from Afghanistan, one of the evacuees so he's been here a month, I think. Maybe, yeah, 6 weeks, something. And we got to know him, and we're giving him a job, and we can start him, we're giving him a full-time job at $15 an hour. But I think what's even more than that is that what we have created at our store is an environment where everyone is safe and welcomed and supported. And that is the other piece of it. They have the income, but they also know, hey, if my kid's sick, I can take the day off and I'm not going to lose my job. Or if I need help understanding, some form for my citizenship test, I can get help for that. Yeah, so it's really exciting. It's great work, and we're really excited to see where it takes us in the future. The last 4 years have been really difficult. Obviously with COVID was difficult for everybody, and still is. But just with the previous administration, the refugee resettlement numbers were, cut to almost nothing. Basically to like 10% of what they were previously. So before that, we were having 15 people at a time going through our job readiness program, people who were newly arrived and needed support. And in the last 4 years, that part of our program went down to almost nothing because there just simply there was nobody coming. And the only people that were accepted, it was basically white people who spoke English. That was who was being allowed in the last 4 years. So we didn't have very many people. So over the last 4 years, we really shifted to say, how can we build up the strength of our business and hire refugees who have been here maybe a year or 2 years and give them jobs. So we're excited now again that things are kind of turning around. We're expecting refugee resettlement to really start again in earnest in March is what they're projecting. Because the whole system had been essentially shut down, and so it takes a long time to get the wheels turning again. There's a new resettlement agency that's starting up in Spokane. They just opened their office, the IRC. I don't know if you're familiar with them, International Refugee Committee. They're actually the largest resettlement refugee organization in the world, but they just are opening up an office in Spokane now. So we're excited to work with them. Yeah, so that's kind of like the fire hose version of what we do. But does anyone have questions? Yeah.
Have you have needed interpreters through this whole thing?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's interpretation is kind of a constant struggle. Thankfully now, it's gotten a little easier for us simply because we have so many former refugees on our own staff. We have people from all over. We probably have, 9 or 10 different nationalities represented right now on our staff. We've had employees from 31 countries now in the last 10 years. But so what we're able to do is say, like, hey, we're gonna pull you aside, because most people speak 3, 4, 5 languages, and so we can find an employee who also speaks that language and say, hey, for this hour, we're gonna pay you the interpreter rate and have you help us with this job interview for people. And in most cases now we can find someone to interpret on our own staff.
And what kind of housing have you been able to provide for them until they could get on their own?
Housing is real tough. We don't do the housing piece of it ourselves, though we do a lot of support for our employees as in helping them search for housing. But that, I mean, that's that's so hard right now. I mean, almost everybody on our staff is looking for, better housing, cheaper housing, but it's really tight right now. So we've worked quite often with Habitat for Humanity. So because the people on our staff, after they've been here a couple years and they have a job now, they qualify to get a Habitat house, and it's a fairly long process, but we've had 4 or 5, maybe 6 of our employees go through that process and be able to buy their own homes. And that's really exciting. But that's a tough one. Yeah?
So I have several questions. We'll start with the easy ones. So was your first location on Indiana near Monroe?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, that
And
was
when
us.
did you move from there to?
We moved
Roughly.
3 years ago
Okay,
to our new spot.
okay. Second question is, what would be the right number of refugees per year for Spokane to handle? I mean, we could have too many and we could have too few.
Sure.
You know,
That's
we're talking a couple of hundred or?
That is a great question. I mean, I have opinions maybe, but there's, so much of it really, I think right now the pinch point is housing. And that's where I know that I've been in communication. There's some innovative things in the works to try to build some new housing specifically for the refugee community. But certainly, I mean, more than, it has been like 75 or something, or maybe 85 something over the last year. And they're anticipating it going up to 10 times that much this year. 750 or more. And I think, it'll be interesting to see after not having any resettlement for so long, like how that balances out. We're focused pretty intensely on the employment side of things, so our hope is like, how can we get as many of these people good jobs as we can, as fast as we can, so that they can afford the housing piece.
Third question, and the last for now, is Mark Finney part of this new organization, or?
I've talked with Mark, because I don't know if you saw in the news, he just resigned as well, because you mentioned this before, so I think, is it okay if I just talk about this? So, this caused like a lot of, we've had some, we've been friendly with World Relief and done some loose partnership with them over the last 10 years. They kind of have their own way of doing things, but they've been helping refugees, which is great. So we have partnered with them, but after this news came out, we the next day made a statement that said we can't, as an organization, we can't partner with World Relief anymore, because for me, just that I know of, I have, 5 or 6 LGBTQ people on my staff. And so I told my managers, I said, we need to make a statement, and this is in line with our organizational values to do this, but really we need to communicate to our own staff that, listen, we have your back, that this is going to be a safe place for you, and we support you, and that was really important to me for the organization. So we did that, but I also had a personal conversation with Mark Finney, because I've known him for a while, and he's a good guy, and I just said, Mark, what is going on? This doesn't jive with what I know of you, and it was a messy situation, and I told him at the end, I was like, I do not envy you for right now, because it came down to there's a lot of this was the national headquarters, almost all of it, really, and that, so he was doing his best to protect his employees, but then again he resigned recently. So, and I've been in contact with him since then and just said, I said, hey, good job, I think you made the right choice. And I said also, whatever, he had mentioned in that article, he's working on starting something. There's not a lot of details yet, but I've talked with him and said, hey, whatever you do, let me know. Like, we want to partner with whoever we can to serve people. So,
So he's not part of this new organization then?
he's not part of Global Neighborhood.
No,
I
I'm
see.
in-
Oh, IRC, no, that's a separate organization. So, oh yeah, sorry, thank you, that's a good question. Yeah,
How do you connect with refugees? How do you find them? How do they find you?
that is a great question. Most of it is just, honestly, word of mouth through the community. Previously, we were able to, we would go into like the ESL school, and we could make some good connections there, but that's kind of been shut down with COVID, like, other people coming into the classroom. But most of it now is just through our current and past employees. We have this network in the community, and almost all of our jobs are filled through our staff bringing people they know to us, which is also really validating for us, because the people who work for us, when they say, hey, I like this job so much, I want my friend to come work here, that's always a good sign to me that we're doing something right as far as like the culture of our workplace. But yeah, almost everybody now. And yeah, same thing with interpreters, or we can call up different people in the community. We recently got connected with a number of like the people from Afghanistan who have been here for longer, and just said, hey, we have a couple of these job openings, like who needs a job? Like, the people who have recently come here, like bring them in, let's interview them, let's get them jobs. So yeah, it's more word of mouth than like an official pipeline at this point. Yeah?
One way we can help you is the thrift store. You have certain hours or days you're open?
Yeah, we're open 7 days a week. It's 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and then it's 10 to 5 on Sundays.
Wow.
So shopping, obviously great. Bring stuff to donate and then shop. Talk to our employees while you're shopping there. Yeah, all of our employees' wages are paid for through our business at this point. And then we have donors from the community that supply like what we call our job readiness program. So that's all the employee supports that we give to people. So helping people pass their driver's tests, or helping them with their citizenship, or like Farah, who I mentioned, his wife is still in Sudan and he's trying to figure out the paperwork to get her over here. So all of that stuff, like we have a staff member, and hopefully more soon, who are able to provide the training and also like kind of what we call like a wraparound support to people to make sure that we can support them. And that stuff, not yet. We're not able to fund all of that through our store yet.
Do you ever need languages that we might know, German, French, Spanish?
We have, yes, Navy. We have had a number of people, Spanish-speaking people, in the last couple of years. So that does happen occasionally. Yeah. And oftentimes, like French is helpful because a lot of people from Africa, French is their third language that they speak fluently. They're still working on English, but they can, we can communicate through like, it's really, so French oftentimes, and some of the other colonial languages, I guess you would say. Yeah.
Are you in communication with businesses around Spokane to move your employees out of your jobs into other jobs, or?
Yeah, that's something that we are really working on through, especially this job readiness program, where, we can make it like a transitional job, so that we can give them the training they need. But it's always helpful to know if there are businesses that will come to us sometimes and say, hey, we'd be happy to hire someone out of your program. Because then we can kind of work with them to say, okay, what skills
Right.
does this person like? Oh, like, do you want them to be forklift certified before they go? It's like, do you need a warehouse worker? Like, we can teach them, like, kind of focus on those skills, and then help place them into jobs. Yeah.
So who pays your salary?
Some through the store, through our business revenue, and then some through donations. So at this point, as an organization, when we started, 15 years ago, 15 years ago, we were 100% funded by donations from the community. And now, like, it's been a slow rebalancing, I'd say. So now we're 85% funded through earned income through our businesses. So recycling, thrift store, boat sales, all of those. And then 15% is funded through donations and some small grants. So it's been helpful for us because when things have gotten really hard, whether it's through politics or COVID or whatever, it's given us the flexibility to say we can kind of shift with things. So yeah, it's kind of a mix. Yeah. Yeah.
Because of your social enterprise structure, you're like a 501, what are you?
Yeah, we're a 501c3.
Oh, you are?
Yep,
Even-
we are.
Okay.
Yep.
So then you could actually get grants from
Yep.
the Gates Foundation
Yeah.
or the Bullitt Foundation or something like
Yep.
that.
And we have gotten a number of small grants in the last, small, I mean, I guess it's all relative, right? Like, we've gotten some grants, like $5,000 or something like that. Last year, we got a larger grant for $25,000 to get our semi-truck.
Right.
But now, as the grant world is kind of a catch-22. They say, well, we won't give you a grant until you're big enough to manage it, but you can't get big enough to manage it without a grant, right?
Okay.
But we're just in the last really year and a half, we've just scaled up so dramatically.
Yeah.
In the last year, we tripled the number of staff that we had. So now we're actually capable, hopefully, to be competitive, to write some larger grants for this stuff.
So how important are volunteers to your organization, or is that kind of doesn't fit into your model so much?
Sometimes they are. It's
Okay.
not, we're not based on volunteers. A lot of thrift stores will say, hey, we need people to come in and sort stuff or whatever. And sometimes we do that, but typically if we have a need that's regular enough,
Right, you want
we
to
can
cultivate a
create a
position.
job out of it, right? Then
Yeah, but
yes,
I'm thinking about these ways in which you
Yeah.
haven't, if we could locate a grant writer, someone that
Oh,
needs
yeah.
stuff, that would be awesome. Or
Yeah.
do you have an ESL teacher on site, so during lunch hour, people could do that or anything?
We have in the past, and that's our goal again over this year, so that we've had, volunteer English speakers come in and do like English practice with people. Because now we are getting, now as more people are starting to come again, we anticipate our job readiness program, like the day-to-day job training, that we've had 1 or 2 people at a time, but we're hoping that by the summertime we'll have 20 people at a time coming in. And that way, then we'll have opportunity to have some more.
Because I know some ESL
Yeah,
teachers that, they can't, as you said, you can't
Yeah.
go in and do that, but they could do it virtually.
yeah,
Or something like that, and I'm just thinking of ways that people with
Yeah.
expertise and some amount of time could be an asset.
Yeah.
So.
absolutely. And
Right.
those things, we're very excited for things to get up and running again
Yeah.
this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the 990 forms are always outdated. What's your latest revenue?
Our budget for this year, our revenue for last year, we broke $1 million in revenue last year, which was, again, crazy. I never thought, like, these businesses starting out, with these these two guys that we were able, I think we had $850,000 in earned income through our businesses last year. And then our budget for this year is like $1.6 million.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting to be able, and so last year we paid out, I think, like $270,000 in wages to refugees.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, we're anticipating it probably be about 350,000 this year. So that's always exciting. That's my favorite part of the
Sure,
job
of
is
course.
writing paychecks because it's so cool because it's not just, I mean, it'd be cool even if we were like a foundation and like, hey, I'm writing $30,000 checks every month to support the refugee community. But it's even better because it's not charity, like they've earned that.
Yeah.
Like this is work that they did, they put in the effort and like, yeah, this is yours, like you earned this, it's not me like giving a handout. So that's really exciting. That's my favorite part. Yeah.
Are you able to provide them like health benefits with
Yes,
the wage?
for anybody who was 30 hours a week or more, we do healthcare benefits. Yeah, yeah.
Do you relate to Family Promise at all?
Yeah, we actually have worked with Family Promise quite a bit in the last year. So we have a system, they get some stuff, a bunch of stuff donated to them that they don't, like it doesn't fit in their system really. So we actually drive our truck over and pick up stuff from them every week and then we keep a tally and then they get, we kind of trade them gift cards to our store so that the families that they are helping, like when they're putting someone up in a new house or a new apartment for the first time, instead of like storing all that stuff themselves, they just send people to our store and then they can shop for what they need there. So that's been kind of a cool partnership too. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you familiar with Mission Community Outreach Center?
Yes.
Okay, so
We
you
also
can-
do some, we pick up the clothes that they don't, like that don't fit for them,
Okay,
for our recycling program. Yeah.
but I mean,
Yeah.
your employees can go there
Yep. Yep.
every 60 days for clothes if they want to for free, so.
Yep. Yeah, we have some cool connections with them too. Yeah. Yeah.
Are there refugees coming to Spokane, let's say over the last several years, who ended up homeless on the streets?
There have been a couple that I mean, I'm aware of, right? I don't know, certainly don't know everybody. We don't see that a lot, thankfully, because they typically are able to find housing on their arrival just because of the initial government support. We have, actually that story I told the first guy that I met as a volunteer when I was just out of Whitworth, Abram, I run into him downtown from time to time. He actually he's homeless. Just from, knowing his story, just so much trauma and ended up getting into drugs and just kind of his life went off the rails. I still see him from time to time. He comes into our store and chats with me and I always tell him, hey, if you can, we actually hired him for a while and then he disappeared for a period of time, but I said, hey, whenever you're ready to show up, like, I've got a job for you, come back. So it's good that he still stays in contact, but there are a few, but not, I don't think it's, like I said, that bottom layer of that hierarchy of like, you have a house, it might be not big enough, and you have some food. We make sure people have that as a society for refugees coming in, but then after that, they're on their own. So, yeah.
The news reported that we can expect around 200 from Afghanistan in the Spokane area.
Mhm.
I think that was what I heard.
Yep.
Can you address that? Is that happening or?
Yeah, it is happening, and I think most of that 200 they've already arrived. They were housed on Air Force bases around the country for a while. There was, from what I heard, there was like a substantial measles outbreak in that community because there were just plane loads of people coming over, and so it kind of slowed everything down because they got everyone up to speed on like their MMR vaccines, and then that took like 3 or 4 weeks, and then they came. So I think most of them have arrived in Spokane.
Have you worked with any?
Yeah, we've had a couple. We've had, like I said, we have one guy who's starting on our staff tomorrow, and then there's been a couple other people that he's introduced us to. And then we did a big clothing drive in the fall when we first heard these people were coming from Afghanistan. The Air Force actually contacted us and said, hey, can you figure something out? They don't have anything, like literally nothing. So then what we've done is connected with that community, and we've had, I don't know, 20-some, I think, families come in. We set up these free shopping nights where after the store closed, we got some interpreters there. We got them in and just said, here's some carts, like, just take whatever you need. And so we were able to give them lots of stuff, clothing, household goods, just to get them set up when they came in. So, yeah.
So there's an organization that I don't know if it's even still around called Refugee Connections.
Yeah.
Where do they fit in the continuum of helping refugees? What's their?
Yeah, they do a lot of like more like specific like programs. It seems they do and we have interacted with them. You know, we're friendly with them for sure. They do a lot of like elder care stuff, and then they do like some community garden things. I know they were focusing on that, like helping people grow food. And I think they did some after-school programs. They just had I think they just hired a new director, so there's some turnover there. But it was the last thing that I talked with them, that was kind of the things that they were focusing on. Yeah.
So what's your biggest need at this point in time?
The biggest need is always donations of stuff, donations of money, and shopping at our store. Because really, like, the more stuff we get, the more we can sell, and the more people we can hire. And then the more, through donations, we can provide the extra support and training to people that they need.
So what sells the best?
Oh man, we sell everything.
Do you want books or not?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Books are.
Boy.
So for us, it's really cool because we do this online book selling now.
Yeah.
So they scan for online. They probably scan, I don't know, 1,500 books a day. But we've also set up, because what we found out, you can't recycle books. They just go into the dump. So we were able to get this machine this last year that we also hire someone to do, that cuts the bindings off of books, and we can take off the covers and the binding and then recycle all the paper.
Awesome.
We're recycling like 25,000 pounds of paper every month now, just from books that we're chopping up.
Yeah.
So yeah, we love books. Send us the books for sure.
So have you read the book, The Travels of a T-Shirt in a Global Economy?
No, but I've heard of it.
You should read that.
One of my managers said,
You'd enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah, it's crazy. The T-shirts are,
I'll cut to the chase for those of you that aren't going to read it. So when they bundle all these T-shirts up, or shirts, and ship them to mostly to Africa, but where any developing countries, and they break them open, there are entrepreneurs that will grade them, and the ones that bring the most money are the ones with professional logos on them.
Yeah.
Sports teams, Nike, Adidas, all that. That's the big money in Africa.
It's definitely, we're called Global Neighborhood, but it's really, this whole industry has shown me how tied together we are globally. Where, these clothes are often made in the countries where the refugees, and then the refugees are now here, and the clothes are now here, and we're sorting them and selling them, and then sending them back, and it's like, it's crazy. So, yeah, that's where, but our values as an organization, kind of how we determine what to do. Like, our first value is our employees. Like, we exist for our employees. And that's the number one thing for us. And then it's our community, where we really believe that we can't thrive as a business, our employees can't thrive unless our community is a place of justice and of peace and of welcome. And then also the third one is our planet. You start seeing the connections of refugee crises around the world connected with environmental crises and It's all connected, is the short version. So we're trying to like be a positive piece in that whole puzzle where everybody's connected. Yeah, yes.
Are we filling that bin often enough?
I think the last time I looked at the reports, it's usually like, I don't know, like a third to a half of the way full every week
Every week? Oh, that's awesome.
when we go pick it up.
Okay.
I think it's mostly people from this church, to be honest with you, too,
Yeah.
because it's kind of hidden back there, so.
To the neighborhood more, maybe.
But yeah, that's great. So thank you for hosting that, by the way. That was like, yeah, because we send someone around every week to pick those up.
We could communicate to the neighborhood better, couldn't we? There's a lot of big houses full of a bunch of stuff around here.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, my God.
fill it
So
up.
it's kind of tucked back there.
We'd love to, there's a couple of them that we have started to having to service like 2 or 3 times a week.
Oh,
We'd
yeah,
love
put these
that.
guys, make
We'll
you
throw
work
out the
harder.
challenge, you know?
So household items,
Yeah,
clothing.
books,
And
yeah. And then the other stuff, can be brought to our store if it's too big to fit in there, so. Yeah,
I worry about books and things going in and, shattering glass or tearing
Yeah.
up the books and
that's a
things
good.
like that. So is that just better to just bring to the store?
If you have a lot of like glassware,
Oh, yeah.
that would be better to bring in the store just so it doesn't, but books and clothes and anything that's not breakable, if you can fit it in there, go for it.
Because I put the glassware next to it and thought there, either somebody will steal it and use it or.
Yeah. No,
or-
that's great
Go
too. I
back.
mean, at least normally we don't say that, but for this one, I'm not too worried. But I just don't want to make a mess for you guys, we don't want it to,
Yeah.
there's some of them that then people come and cut the locks and there's stuff spread out.
Yeah.
But we don't want that.
So, just so folks here know, we have redirected some funds in our benevolence line items toward Global Neighborhood.
Oh, wow, thank you.
And so that is an ongoing partnership that we will continue
That's
to
great, thank you.
be eager to hear about.
That's great, and we'd love to have people, like, I'm happy to, if you wanna come down, or a group of people, like, get a tour, meet some of our staff and like, walk through the whole operation and see what's
Yeah.
going on. I love doing that, I mean, it's fun just to see everything that's going on, so I'd be more than happy to do that. I brought some, like, just some handouts too, just for, I think I have 20 of them, I wasn't sure how many. But yeah, we can, if you'd like to look at those, or if you have other questions, I'm always,
Do you have any sort of relationship with Gonzaga?
yeah,
Because I work there and I see tons of stuff going on at the end of the year that people.
I would love to. The problem, what we find with universities is that there's like there's like a million different departments.
Right.
So it's hard to know like who the decision maker is. I would love to, like, I think 2 years ago, we came and cleaned out some dorms for people. I'd love to get some donations.
Yeah,
on
that's
campus.
great.
So if you have connections.
Well, and then the other side of that, of poor students needing
Oh, yeah.
building and all of that, so
Oh,
I
yeah.
can see the circle
We
of
have,
building the relationship.
Gonzaga students are like a key shopping demographic. It's great, like college students, it's a thrift store, they can walk there, so.
It's, what a great
Yeah.
location.
One of our members, her sons, who were high school, college age, love shopping.
Oh, good.
at Global Neighborhood.
That's good to know. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you have a question?
Have you considered, like at WSU, at the end of the term, or especially at the end of the school year, doing dumpster diving?
Yeah, well, essentially we've done that. We've done that with Whitworth. We did it once with Gonzaga, and then we typically do it out at Eastern as well, where they put posters up in all the dorms and say, because usually kids are trying to get out last minute and they have a little car, they can't fit everything in. So if you have good stuff, just put it here, and then we send our truck out
Oh,
the
that's
next.
right, okay.
They put pods,
Yeah.
all around Gonzaga at the end of the school year.
Oh, really?
Put stuff in.
Oh.
I'll get you connected, yeah, let's talk, I'll get you
They
connected
need
with
to be
my.
orange.
Yeah, I know.
I also wonder about retirement communities.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I should have my donations guy reach out to them. But yeah, yeah, like I said, we love it because we're keeping stuff out of the landfill and we're turning it into jobs for people. So whenever I see stuff, somebody going to the dump with a trailer, I'm always like, look. Hey, yeah.
Well, our time has elapsed, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Very informative.
And yeah, if anyone has other questions, I'm always happy to talk or email or whatever.
Nothing.